So is it possible to kill the Icon of Sin with nothing but the Crucible blade? Well, let me just say, with a hairline like that, I think anything is possible. I just read what his shirt said. What's going on, guys? My name is Cynic, and if you haven't caught on by now by the title, thumbnail, and that introduction, today we're going to be talking about killing the Icon of Sin with just the Crucible blade. And it's kind of funny how I ended up doing this, because I was in the middle of doing a completely different challenge. I started up a brand new game, and I decided to run through the entire story of Doom Eternal without chainsawing a single enemy. So all the way from Hell on Earth to the Final Sin, all 13 missions without pulling out the chainsaw once. And that went about as well as you'd expect. But if you guys are new to the channel and you're interested to see exactly how that panned out, then feel free hitting that subscribe button as well as turning on those notifications so that way you know as soon as that video goes live. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the main point of today's video. Killing the Icon of Sin with the Crucible blade. Is it possible? Yes, you're just not really supposed to do it. You're gonna run into some problems. You gotta be fairly patient in order to do this, actually. I'd also recommend having a couple lives on hand, because if not, you're gonna be restarting this boss fight quite a bit. But if you guys have beat Doom Eternal, then you already know how this boss fight pans out. It's a two-stage boss fight. The first stage requiring you to take out the Icon of Sin's armor. The second stage being a repeat of the first stage, just the environment slightly changes, and now instead of taking out armor, you're eliminating the flesh off of its body. Gotta love that sound. Now, as I said, this fight isn't meant for you to do this, so you have to do this just right. If you get too close to the Icon of Sin, the game is going to push you back and it's not going to register your hits. Also, which is very weird, you can be directly above or on top of the body part that you're trying to hit, and the game won't register it. It seems like on certain body parts, or even all of them, and I just didn't really notice it, you have to hit them just right. And the first stage is so much easier because the Icon of Sin is so much closer. The two easiest spots to try this out, or try out your timing and method of approach, is the stomach and the head. The head is relatively undefended, and all the jump pads you use can pretty much launch you directly to his forehead. Meanwhile, the stomach is a straight approach. I would actually recommend doing that one first. That way you get a feel for your timing. Actually, small correction. So the timing on body parts seem to be a little different. The stomach and the head are a little bit more forgiving on how close you can get and how late your swing is, because those parts are closer to the building. Meanwhile, the arms are the furthest away, and the chest is very weird. So the stomach and head you can be a little bit closer. The arms you have to mess around with, because if you get too far from the arena, or if the Icon of Sin is too close to you, the game is going to try to push you back into the arena, and if you're trying to stay on top of the Icon of Sin, it becomes this weird push and pull with the camera. Both the arms especially, they're really weird. It seems like you can't hit them directly. You kind of have to anticipate where his arms are going to be in terms of his movement or the attacks that he's doing. Like right here, I ended up taking out his final bicep plate without ever seeing exactly what I was hitting. Then the game gave me a nice comfortable spot right behind his nose, and it seems like with the forearms you have to hit like his elbow, which the way I did that was I utilized the jump pads and try to jump around his hand and swing at his elbow. If you pay close attention, his elbow actually pokes out from the armor. I would recommend aiming for that. Now the next stage is where all the pain in the ass comes, because he's actually further away from the building than the stage, and you can't hit him in certain parts unless he's doing certain attacks. And this is where the majority of your time, if you're going to try to do this, is going to be spent. You basically have to keep kamikazing him until you hit him. The amount of leniency they give you here is not that much room. Like I said, there's more space between the building and the Icon of Sin, and ideally you also want to be fighting him on either the left or the right side of the building, preferably the right, because for me at least it seems easier to dash off these platforms and go straight for the chest or the head. But if you're fighting him in front of the building, you're kind of screwing yourself over, because id Software cuts off your window of hitting him, and it's not a distance thing. You can definitely reach him from the front of the building. The thing is, as soon as you reach him, the game is likely to cut you off to a black screen and just respawn you in. That's it. They just considered you dying, versus on the sides of the building where you have a little bit more of a window. A couple seconds different, but it is noticeable. Anyway, so the basic breakdown of how you would do this fight if you're using just the Crucible is you're going to want to wait for him to stand still and utilize that laser beam from his forehead. That's the perfect time to hit his chest, his perfect time to hit his head, and as I've been showing clips, it's a very good time to try and aim for his left bicep. But that one's kind of funky. You have to time it right when your screen goes black. You want to swing, because even though you're not seeing it, the game is registering you hitting that. I mean, forget the visuals. You want to go off of that hit marker and that sound effect, signaling that you're slicing flesh off the bone. That's a good sign. Now for his hands. It's very tempting to go after his hands head on when he's lighting the ground on fire. You know the attack where he sticks his hands out and lights the ground on fire? don't go after him right there, because there's a strong knockback zone around his hands. It's going to knock you back, it's not going to register your attacks, and it's going to light you on fire. It's a lose across the board. What you're going to want to do is, well, first off, if that attack comes and he's on the side of the buildings, you can launch yourself from these platforms and go after his forearms from an angle. Perfect execution. And the other option you can do is, there's an attack where he does a single-handed slam. This one you kind of have to be lucky on which hand he does and just hope you're on the outside. For instance, right here, he slammed his right hand down. I was on the outside of his right hand, so I came in from that angle. The angle approach is very important. I think that applies for everything with the exception of the head, the chest, and the stomach. The arms, you got to make sure you're coming in at an angle. The left bicep is kind of the same thing. You got to play with it. What I did was I waited for that single-handed slam, and then I kind of just launched myself off of an elevated platform. You got to be careful though. You really want to make sure you're out of that knockback zone that his hands are generating. That's gonna wrap it up for this video. That is how you kill the Icon of Sin with nothing but the Crucible. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Like I said, in the next couple days I should be releasing a video on completing the entire campaign for Doom Eternal without using the chainsaw. It was inexperienced to say the least. But until next time, my friends, I will see you guys later.